Hi, PSA. It's me, Abby, in the office, and I am at school again today getting the mail, and I thought that while I was here, I would read you guys a story. Today, I'm going to read a book called Extra Yarn. It's by Mac Barnett, and it's illustrated by John Klassen. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town, where everywhere you looked was either white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box with yarn of every color. So she went home and knit herself a sweater, and when Annabelle was done, she had extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for Mars too, but there was still extra yarn. When Annabelle and Mars went out for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed. He said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. "Uh-oh, that's not very kind." But it turned out he was. Look, what happened? It looks like she knit him a sweater. And even after she'd made a sweater for Nate, and his dog, and for herself, and for Mars, she still had more yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet!" shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone. Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around and looking at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," Annabelle said. "Then they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." But it turned out she could. And she did. Even for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. Look how colorful all their sweaters are. So she knit sweaters for her mom and her dad, and for Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Lewis. Look, can you see that there's an L in Lewis's sweater? L for Lewis. She made sweaters for everyone except for Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks." Look, there he is, standing in the snow. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats, and for all the other animals too. Soon, people thought, soon Annabelle will run out of yarn. To all those animals. But it turned out she didn't. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. What kind of things can you see? That looks like a mailbox to me. And look, a house. I wonder if your house wears a sweater. Things began to change in that little town. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from all around the world to see the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke, who was very fond of clothes, sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. There's the archduke on his boat. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn, and I'm willing to offer you $1 million. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. "What?" That pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10 million, he shouted. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. I wonder if you would sell the yarn for $10 million. That's a lot of money. So that night, the Archduke hired 3 robbers. Uh-oh. break into Annabel's house, and they stole the box. And they took it to the Archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. Look, there's his boat. He's leaving. Oh no. He went back to his castle. The Archduke put on his favorite song. He sat in his best chair. He took out the box. He lifted the lid, looked inside. I wonder what he's going to find. What happened? What's going on? The box is empty. His mustache quivered, it shivered, it trembled. The Archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I will curse you with my family's curse, and you will never be happy again." Uh-oh. But, look, there's the box on an iceberg. Here it is again. Who found it? Who found the box? It turned out she was. Oh, she knit a sweater for a whole tree. Look, this is the last page. Thanks for reading with me, PSA. I hope you guys are all safe and cozy.